And we continue our most important track on our health. And next we will have a panel discussion about innovation to enable better health and less medicine. And let's welcome our host, Aki. And rest of the group, please.
Ooh, smoke.
Oh, it's smoky.
You will have a fascinating thought show coming on, but I have one question for you. Actually, I will direct this to Aki. We all have these gadgets, and I just ordered today newest Garmin, state of art, monitors me on 24/7. I have one question for you. How much technology can really help you on improving your health?
Well, the impact will be same as we have seen in communication. There was a time we gave smoke signals to each others. Then we went for the meetings, traveled with horse. Then came kind of letters, then emails, then webcam and mobile. So, fax was between. But anyway, it will be amazing difference. And it will happen in the next 10 years.
In next 20 years?
Next 10 years. I'm optimistic, yes.
I sincerely hope that my delivery comes in next few days, because I'm not the guy who can wait.
I'm still a dreamer, hey.
Hey, but please go ahead and introduce your own crew. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Kim. So good afternoon and welcome to this panel. And we have here great guests. We have Inga Deakin from Molten Ventures, and then Anttoni Aniebonam from Veri. And we talk about how innovation enable better health and less medicine. So let's start with the intros, like our background and what we do.
You want to start?
Inga starts, of course.
Okay, thank you. Good to be here. Can't see any of you with the smoke, but thank you for coming to listen. So my background is science. I'm a PhD in neuroscience, molecular biology, and then worked with spinning out companies from universities in the UK, principally around London, Oxford, Cambridge. And then spent some time in the US in a molecular diagnostics company as we started to commercialize European innovation through to the US healthcare system. And now working at Molten Ventures, we are a publicly listed venture fund. So we invest between 120, 150 million a year, focused on Series A and B European companies across multiple sectors, from SaaS, fintech, consumer, deep tech, and health and life science, which is my focus given my background. But I do find that diversity of the team super helpful when we're thinking about these innovative parts of the health sector.
Awesome. Hey, thank you so much, everyone, for spending this time with us. I'm Anttoni Aniebonam, the CEO and co-founder of Veri. My background is in bioinformatics and economics. Before Veri, 3-4 years ago, I worked for a YC alumni company based in the Bay Area called Meru Health. Yeah, that's pretty much me.
Yes, and I'm Aki. I'm from Startup Health. Startup Health is US and San Fran-based health innovation company with funds, media, and coaching program for entrepreneurs. We've been operational for 12 years now, and altogether have had 440 portfolio companies, 345 still active. My background is in life science, not at that level that Inga. And then I quit PhD and established a company, and health company, and that's the case. So let's start with the health challenge. What is the problem we're dealing with? So what are the biggest challenges in health, or the gaps in healthcare system, what great entrepreneurs should tackle in and can bring most impact in?
Yeah, every time we think about health tech and new innovations in healthcare, I refer back to the quadruple aim. So it's easy just to focus on individual patient health or population health, but also thinking about reducing costs, improving patient experience, and improving the provider satisfaction. So we can throw lots of innovation at the system, but if the providers can't cope with it, then it doesn't work. So in terms of areas and gaps, so with that overlay in mind, we talk a lot about precision medicine, which is about getting the right drug to the right patient at the right time. And that remains so. We've had incredible progress with things like genetic mutations, which you can tell what kind of cancer you have, then you can take a drug specifically tailored for that subtype. You get incredible results. So it's already happening, precision medicine. This isn't a pipe dream. But there's a lot more we can do there to optimize both the drug and the kind of patient selection side of things. Then probably the other two big things to talk about would be care outside the hospital. So again, we all know the healthcare system's overburdened and people are getting older, there are more conditions, more things to manage. So how can we help transition that care, relieve that pressure from the healthcare system, specifically hospitals, to the home, so telehealth type solutions. And then finally thinking about access. So there's been a recent move to increase the quadruple aim to a quintuple aim, which would be about equity of healthcare access. And this is always a hot topic around innovation, particularly wearables and other things. Maybe this isn't always accessible to everybody, particularly those that are causing a lot of these healthcare burden problems who don't have access to the latest technology. So how do we manage the equity as well? Kind of.
Beauty. Anttoni, if you...
I personally am really excited about a couple of opportunities in this space, and I think in a beautiful way, like everything really comes together. And as Inga mentioned here, a lot of these different factors have to play. Collaborate in order for this space to really to change. But something I'm biased that I'm very interested in and excited about is personalized, objective utilization of data to help people understand and improve their behavior, especially when it comes to lifestyle conditions and diseases, especially obesity, type 2 diabetes, and so on. That's what Veri at its core does. So we have we utilize a continuous glucose monitor that measures your glucose continuously from the back of your arm, and we basically build the best possible operating system for people to understand that very complex set of data, combining that with exercise, sleep, and first of all, nutrition. Also, something that I'm really interested and excited about in this space is, and I think this is coming from an entrepreneur and constantly looking at different opportunities and technologies, how we can solve some of these most pressing problems, like the cost of care is utilizing large language models in the space of health. And I think we are very far still away from that being the status quo, but I do think that a lot of companies are paving the way right now for that to be a reality at some point, where we can get the cost of care, reducing the human hours, from reducing the amount of human hours and the cost of care to pretty minimal.
Brilliant, and all these sub-challenges, now we can solve them so much better. And what we get then is that the healthcare system was built for healthcare provider point of view. It's rigid, siloed, and it serves the healthcare. So nowadays all patients are primarily served by calendar-based. We have no idea how patients are doing between the visits, and we have to solve each one of the problem in different disease areas, in logistics, and making the patient data visible for us. This is the system level challenge, and takes decades to fix in the health system perspective. So let's change the view to most promising innovations that have potential then to revolutionize the care. And from Anttoni, I would like to hear, and we all love to hear, what role do you think consumer-focused lifestyle medicine companies like Veri has in this equation? And how you improve health?
Yeah, no. As I said earlier, we are very focused on a couple of relatively specific problems. But just to sort of like share with you the sheer volume or size of the problem, currently 93% of the population in the United States can be considered metabolically unhealthy, and that figure globally is 39%, give or take. This is a massive amount of people that are struggling with obesity, with prediabetes or type 2 diabetes, and similar sort of like metabolic health-related conditions and issues. Veri is designed as its core to provide people accountability to change their behavior. There's a lot of tools and drugs as well in this space that are emerging really fast right now, which at their core solve the same problem as Veri does. The challenge with a lot of these drugs is the fact that you have to take them for life. And something that we are seeing a lot of the space evolving, and people who are starting to become aware of these factors, they want to take health into their own hands. They want to be on the driver's seat on their own health before these different conditions occur. And it's been like very refreshing to see this change and just the sheer size of this change happening constantly when talking with customers. I still today do at least 5, sometimes even more, customer interviews every single week. I just try and get into the minds of the customer and understand what is really like the biggest problem that they face, and it's been fascinating to see and just sort of like understand that this movement of taking health into your own hands has really started on the market.
That's it. And from Inga, what ways digital health and patient data drive innovation in the pharmaceutical industry, that we get more personalized drugs and eventually diminish use of drugs which doesn't actually work?
Absolutely, yeah. So the pharma industry is set up really about developing new drugs, testing them on patients and getting them to market. And that's still kind of the way they're thinking, even with all these digital initiatives. But so if we think about it in those groups, so in research and R&D, we can use both healthcare-acquired data, so like image analysis and other kind of biomarkers that come from tests, so your doctor does, patient-acquired data, things like Veri, and other data streams coming from smartwatches, other things like that. For example, we have Actia in our portfolio, which is a blood pressure monitoring company, using the sensor in your smartwatch to track blood pressure continuously, passively. Obviously, a lot more user-friendly than the cuff that we all know. So healthcare-acquired data, consumer-acquired data, clinical trials-acquired data, and none of those are really very well integrated yet. So there's a lot of effort within pharma to do that, but I think we'd still need some interoperability kind of standards like we have for electronic health records for this kind of biomarker data. And when we talk about biomarkers, we mean from the genetics, which have been pretty well proven with many drugs, through to molecular, through to physiological, through to vital signs, glucose monitoring, through to behavioral. And a lot of digital tools have started just with the behavioral side, but actually we need to integrate a lot of those different features to get the whole vision of what the patient's experiencing and how the drug impacts that. So from that R&D perspective, and then as we talked about costs, a lot of these next generation therapies are incredible. Cell therapy can have practically curative results if it's the right patient at the right time, and they're still very expensive to manufacture. Some of these cell therapies are costing $100,000, and if it doesn't work, except for 20-30% of patients, it's a massive problem for the system, because we all want it to work so badly. We've got to make sure we have the right patient. So work to be done on manufacturing efficiency of the drug, but also in the patient response and picking the right patient. So biomarkers, response, and then there's the kind of commercial side of the pharma business, which is massive. And we talked about this, how nobody else has really got that incredible network of distribution. They know every doctor, they know all of the prescribers. So how do we integrate some of the digital tools that we have, maybe in the telehealth side, through to digital therapeutics, integrate that with prescription. So I don't know if we'll talk about this in a minute, but like the DIGA kind of program in Germany was this incredible opportunity from the government to say, we can prescribe apps. Wow, this is going to finally get the uptake of digital therapeutics that we were hoping for, but correct me if I'm wrong, it maybe hasn't been quite such a quick uptake as we thought, because doctors aren't used to prescribing apps.
Yeah.
So maybe the pharma industry needs to move closer together with the digital tools, because they have got that monopoly on that distribution arm. And if they can see the value of distribution tools, maybe we can work together. And we've got some examples we can talk about.
Yeah, beautiful. And this is a couple of 8 years ago, Toby Cosgrove, the CEO of Cleveland Clinic, he invested a lot. He said that there are two kinds of solutions. One are those who put hospitals and healthcare tick better and changes inside out in that way. And another bit is those who increase health. And digital therapeutics hits in that bit. So when you are diagnosed and you go to care pathway, you are locked with the service. Usually they are Bioform is this great company, I love it. It's end-to-end company, very good at cardiovascular, like hypertension, so forth. And you get their automized care plan, which is algorithm-based, fixes it for you. You have a high-level remote monitoring, and then a kind of how keeps a rhythm for you to take medication and how you should live. And developing these takes years, but it's still kind of 3 times faster than for pharmaceuticals and 50 times less expensive. And these services also tell, is the drug which was chosen for the treatment working or not? So, and Virta Health from Finland, for example, not from Finland, but by a Finnish entrepreneur, and they do the same in type 2 diabetes, where they are ketogenic diet, then kind of a treatment plan, and they have put a lot of focus to the coaching team, which is like physician, not real specialist, and then health coach, and they aim to get kind of permanent lifestyle change, supporting to live from the patient perspective, your life healthier. And Veri does that before. Veri has got it. Veri has taken some of the customers much earlier. They never come to Virta Health.
Yeah.
Customers.
Well, I hope so. I hope that we can eat some market share from Virta Health, but they've done a tremendous job with their results, and it's just a massive hat tip to the founding team to be able to be like so in the core of this problem and doing it elegantly, but in a super simple fashion.
Yes.
So, super interesting you bring up the remote patient monitoring, because the way I think about that kind of evolution of telehealth is you start by just duplicating the normal interaction you have with your physician. So you do it via a call or by text communication. And then we've got the next generation, like you said, maybe using some large language models. Again, I should mention one of our companies, IESO, which is online psychological therapy. They've been running synchronous chat sessions with a therapist via text for over 10 years.
Right.
So they now have treated 100,000 patients with structured cognitive behavioral therapy. So you can use that very structured, very relevant data set combined with the generative AI that we've all had a good play with, make it much more closer to reality to bring this kind of chatbot physician augmentation tool to life. So I think we're going to need a bit of that integrated data sets to get that next generation of telehealth, and then incorporating the remote patient monitoring, the patient-derived data, whether it's a nurse has gone to your house to take a blood draw or sent you home with a blood pressure monitor or CGM. Yeah. And then exactly once you've got to that remote patient monitoring, pre-patient, or what do we call it, healthy, interested group, that's when we really can have a huge impact. But the problem is we have to have someone responsible for that care, someone paying, someone ensuring even access, and that's where all these, you were talking about the whole body coming together, and that's not really how pharma operates. So we can't rely just on the pharma system. There used to be this dogma that you couldn't make a diagnostic that would tell someone not to take pharma's drug, because pharma would hate that, because they want to prescribe as many drugs as they can. But because thanks to innovation in things like reimbursement and payment, with these more expensive drugs, they're not getting paid. Pharma won't get paid unless it works. So this really brings that remote patient monitoring to the fore, and we can use the infrastructure that we have to improve outcomes, and it benefits pharma as well. So we don't have this
And luckily,
misalignment.
luckily, pharma and clinicians in the end believe in real-world data and outcomes. So if we can't make it inside out, we can do in those bits outside in, and then causes those healthy cracks to the system to change it a bit. So then let's have a look a little bit about barriers to entry to market and reality in a startup life in health tech space. So why it's so hard to implement new healthcare models, and why it's so hard to push the investments from, let's say, countries and governments to preventative health. Can be practical examples of what are the difficulties of startups to get their model working in a healthcare, or any examples?
I'll take it. So I guess one of the key factors based on some recent research in what hampers adoption of new digital tools in healthcare systems is not that doctors don't want to, they're stubborn, they know how to do things. They're actually a very innovative group,
Yes.
massively motivated to improve the care for their patients and make their lives easier also. So it's more a lack of unified strategy. That was always the number one that came back from this recent survey. So it's because it's not just the physicians in charge, the administrators, the payers, the pharmacists. It's such a complicated kind of ecosystem that I think that's what holds back adoption in this place, because you rarely have a direct company makes product, sells to customer. There's always someone involved. Even in the most consumer end of things, if you suddenly have your patients coming to you as a primary care physician with loads of wearables data, I don't know what to do with it. You don't hit clinical criteria for having a problem, so you can't enter my clinical pathway. You're just increasing burden to the system. So there's a knock-on effect wherever you probe the ecosystem. So I think that's the challenge of navigating it, is understanding and preempting what that will be, and maybe testing a few times in a startup mentality and finding the course. But I think that's what's holding companies back. Yes. In terms of good examples, I guess you can start without this wonderful ambition of everybody being engaged in their health. Start with those that already have a label. So you have been diagnosed with hypertension, you're worried about that, maybe you buy one of these watches, or you're obese, you know you're not super healthy, you've had a scare, you've had a stroke, you've had something to kind of prompt you to work on something. Fundamentally, whisper it, a lot of these programs for behavior change, nutrition, do some more exercise, they're not that different. But if you've got the hook of the label that motivates that person in the near term or over the next 6 weeks, year, 2 years, whatever it is, it's all good for your health. Because it's very hard to motivate somebody with the graph, which is incredibly powerful, that shows that once you hit 65, 70, you'll almost certainly have a condition. And half the population will have 3 or more once you get to about 70. So it'll kind of come for all of us eventually. But it's very hard to motivate when you're a couple of decades off that. Yeah. So I think using those labels as a hook can be a way to do that.
Yeah, something that I've come across multiple times within sort of like as we've expanded and scaled Veri is the more you sort of like horizontally expand to different ways of distributing the product, there seems to be a really big friction point, which is the fact that there isn't aligned incentives. Most of healthcare is still a service-based fee model, spending time with patients, spending time with people, and helping them change things, the root cause inside out, is not something that is very highly valued, and it's not an incentive system that has been built to the system. An incentive system that I would propose, and I would love for you as well to push on this end if you are entrepreneurs or looking to start a company in this space, is value-based incentive models. So building pricing structures and systems which are value-based, that basically come from a standpoint of our North Star is to help this patient or this group of people reach this health outcome, and building smart ways of going about it on a company culture level, but as well like potentially even on pricing strategy level. being able to advocate more of that kind of behavior and that kind of culture in the space is going to be key for prevention to become well, the status quo and the way how we approach health in a more holistic and more horizontal way.
Yes. And then the challenge is, even if you have a digital therapeutics level product, a service, all putting into place, you got to have a clinical evidence, health economics, safety of use, data security, and then ease of use, and so on. When you start to come into market, always with the partners, I would say, in the healthcare system, they have a permanent presence there in the care pathways. Another challenge for the companies is that even if they are value-based care business model products, is that when you do the adaptation to care pathway, the patients are not thrown to that service immediately like this. Some patients are in a normal category treatments, so it increases the workload at that period of a year or two when patients are moved to digital therapeutics. And not all patients fit there. So that gives the friction. And then on top of that, you have to have a very committed kind of unit where to do it first. From the top of the hospital therapy area, chief clinicians, the care team who has done that before. Then integrations, they vary between countries. We talk about HL7 standards, but lots of other things has to work. And your service data for the professional user has to come to the same window with other data. So these are the kind of practical issues there. And it takes a bit of time. So Kim is already there. So we have a talk about the opportunities. We maybe agree that when we fuel all these opportunities, good examples by next level AI, it makes the whole system work better and combine the service elements around the patient which are suitable for that patient. Are they digital services and then medication? But in the end, just quickly, like advice for health entrepreneurs. What advice you would give for health entrepreneurs?
Start with a very strong why. This is a hard market to be in, and it's not going to be an easy ride. There's a lot of regulatory stuff. You're dealing with people's health, so if you don't have a hard why commitment, you're going to struggle with your mental health, which would be like a bit ironical.
Good.
Yeah, mine would just be, think about that whole ecosystem, all of these different players in the system. You're going to poke at one part of it, but it's going to have an impact everywhere. And think about that, how that short-term engagement can lead to a long-term output. And maybe you need to do a big clinical study if it's a big preventative program. Yeah. We've seen companies do that, so it's possible to do that.
And a very strong core team who has the commitment for next 10 to 20 years to do that.
Yeah.
And then strong why to do that with the patients or individuals, patients, care teams, doctors, pharma, insurance, healthcare units at hospitals as they work. Do that. Once you have done that carefully over, let's say, a year or two, you have a roadmap. In healthcare, if you come to healthcare side and care pathways, the good thing is that you have a roadmap for development. You have to prove the clinical evidence. You have to get the health economics right, and you know what the channels are. So that's why the strong why, strong team, at the very core of that, you can't spend too much time of understanding the problem. Because once the train leaves the station and you start developing it, if there is a crack in the design, you are beeped. So it's that's it.
Yeah.
That's maybe the difference.
Yeah.
So thank
Awesome.
you a lot.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you, Inga. Thank you, Anttoni. It was great to be here. Thank you for Arctic Startup and Arctic15.